I'm just going to record this and cross my fingers. So, people who may have seen my offerings a couple of weeks or 3 ago will know that I talked about my visit to France to see my daughter who now lives there. I showed some of the photos from the first week or so, and this presentation deals with photos that I took since then. So here on this screen is we're in the queue to board the shuttle coming home. This time we were on the lower deck. I won't show you any more of that because it's the same as going onto the shuttle going on the upper deck. So I said I visited my daughter who lives in France, and she lives in Marnay-sur-Marne. And this large circle in the middle is where Marnay-sur-Marne is, with respect to Paris, Switzerland, and Frankfurt, and everywhere else. So that's a little bit of context. And this is the mill where she lives. I've shown this before, but this is a photo taken from some rocks where we sat and had a cup of coffee once and was amply supplied with ginger nuts, which I haven't had for ages, but really enjoyed. Their land, they've got a lot of land, and here are some a couple of deer that they I just looked at my window one morning, and there were a couple of deer grazing on the hillside, oblivious to me, which is good. Now they live in an old mill, and there's one room that has the mechanisms associated with the time when it was a mill. Pulleys that probably had leather belts on them at one time. Here's the other end of that shaft with a big cogwheel and
good heaven.
vertical. I can't begin to imagine quite what was being driven, but that was it. One day we went out up to Chaumont, and my daughter, being my daughter, pointed out this little shack on the side of the road and said, that's where we're going to book you in next. Come in. And there's another doorbell, John. One day we drove south to Langres, a fortified town. So there is Langres, there is Chaumont, the next big town. And the isn't marked, but the mill where they live is round about there where my skirt Dijon down the bottom.
Oh.
As I said, it was a fortified town, and in time-honoured way, it was built on a hilltop, which is it's good for defence purposes. This was just taken from the car window driving past, so it's a bit blurred. Here's another bit of the wall at Long.
Oh, yeah. It's quite on a hilltop.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the main street. Typical sort of French main street.
Yes.
Looks as though it maybe ought to be pedestrianised, but it clearly isn't.
No.
So lots of old buildings, architecture, typically France, I think. While we were there, or rather on the way home from there, we called in at a supermarket, and I was really quite interested in various aspects of the supermarket. Yeah, particularly the fish counter. This is just one half of it, and a huge variety of seafood there. And
that was so merry.
Yeah. Also, another display caught my eye. A cheese display.
Oh wow!
huge variety of cheeses there. But you can see La Vache qui rit, a laughing cow down there, bottom
Oh
right.
yeah, we have that, don't we?
Yeah, we do. So that was Langres. Another visit was to Nogent, which is there. This is Marny-sur-Marne where they live, Chaumont, Langres, Nogent. And it has there's a little bit of an industrial side to it, a forge, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But here is another sort of street, typical street in Nogent, and that's that. And just a little bit to the right is another sort of town square, again, typically French. On the way there, we drove through a little place called Poulangy, which is just a little hamlet, and you can geography in a bit of a valley, lots of wood and trees around, and here's another view. So I mentioned that Nogent as an industrial area, and again, this is a photo taken from the road, and it's famous for its forge, particularly knives and cutlery, believe it or not. And I learned that the mill where my daughter lives was not a mill for grinding corn or anything like that, but was a mill used for forging cutlery. And there were lots of local places like that around, which then became all incorporated in this particular site to make cutlery. And there's the heart of the place. They have a museum which I didn't go to, but I'm sure it's really, really interesting. And here's the sort of product they make. So a particularly lethal looking knife there. Pen knives and scalpels were another one.
Oh, good Lord. The Swiss knife.
Swiss Army like knife.
Yeah, they're sort of.
And here's something that is clearly, well, it's labelled, sort of height of knives. Again, typical. So that was Nogent, and eventually we had to come home, or I had to come home. My son-in-law Dave very, very kindly drove me back, and we drove back across France to Calais, and this is near the shuttle terminal, and the wind turbines were sort of near the centre of Calais.
Oh.
I don't know whether people have visited, probably. France is full of wind turbines.
Is it? Oh, God.
Nearly everywhere you look, which is great. And I hope that we're going to start doing the same soon. It does make sense. So there are wind turbines just by the side of the road. And we were approaching the hotel and found that we came across a roundabout. And there in the middle of the roundabout was the channel tunnel boring machine.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, so they've preserved that and it's labelled there, and that's in the middle of a Calais roundabout. So we stayed at the Holiday Inn that night, and there's the sort of entrance and reception to the Holiday Inn. There's a breakfast bar, which they provided. Would you believe it? A fantastic English breakfast.
Oh.
I would believe it, yes, because of the British.
That's right. I couldn't resist taking this. If you look to the left of that, you came across a wall that was decorated like this, which was really quite impressive. Luckily, it was only on one wall, otherwise we would have had our heads spinning, I think. On the way out, in the grounds, there was a hen with her chick, little chicks, and they were just roaming freely on the grounds. Obviously, felt very welcome and safe. When we arrived, they were actually in the car park picking up pieces of grass. And then the following morning, we got the shuttle back to Folkestone, and here's another view of Stonehenge taken on the way home.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah,
Mm.
again a little bit blurred because it's sort of taken out of the car window and enlarged, but it's
Good.
what everybody imagines when they think of Stonehenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
So those are the photos of the trip. The end of a very interesting trip. Very, very,
Oh.
even though I wasn't driving. And I've now had time to reflect and hear a few subsequent thoughts. Where did they put all the stuff they dug out of the Channel Tunnel? You do think that. Well, if you're me, Spike Milligan thought it, and well, they dug another tunnel and put it in there. Here's a cross section of the Channel Tunnel, which is it shows you the sort of ground, and this is the dark brown line was the tunnel. The green area where they dug the tunnel is chalk marl, whatever that means. So it's beneath a grey chalk area and above a galt clay area. So this is and here, where my cursor is, that is the meeting point. So when they were digging from both ends, that's where the both ends met. And it's an incredible feat to
Oh, it is.
meet up exactly, just about exactly. And that sort of engineering expertise isn't really thought about much, but the way we're able to live is due largely to the expertise of scientists and engineers. Got to get that little plug in.
Yeah, here.
Very good. Yeah.
So on the English side, this is where they put the stuff. On the English side, I guess something similar on the French side. But on the English side, they reclaimed land from the sea at the base of Shakespeare Cliff. Sort of almost 5 million cubic feet of spoil was deposited behind a 1.7 kilometre long sea wall, reclaiming 11 acres from the channel. So they deposited
Interesting.
in this area an artificial extension of the land into the sea. And they built a seawall and deposited everything there, reclaiming that area, which was called Samphire Hoe, developed a nature reserve. And down at the bottom here, you can see in the bottom middle is an area which is part of that reclamation, and it's the Channel Tunnel cooling plant. They needed to cool the tunnel because of the heat generated in all sorts of ways. The sort of electrical, the use of electricity, the sort of friction, and all sorts of aspects created heat which had to be got rid of. Other considerations, when the train goes through the tunnel, it just acts like a piston in a cylinder and pushing the air in front of it. And you've got to do something about that. And what they did was produce a series of 2 meter wide connections here between tunnels so that the train didn't push all that column of air all the way across the channel. It was able to be released into the other tunnel with these piston relief ducts. And as I've said, heat generated by the electric trains is dissipated using chilled water piped through the tunnel. And that water is chilled at the English end by that cooling plant in Samphire Hoe. Something different again. We sort of, as you do, you sort of immerse yourself in sort of the of France and my
Anti-clockwise.
Yes.
Dans le sens inverse de aiguille du montre simply means anti-clockwise. Would you believe? And then finally, all that French reminded me of a rhyme I was taught at school.
Not Frere Jacques.
No, not Frere Jacques. I'll just sing. It's to twinkle, twinkle, little star. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. That's how it goes.
Wapool.
Sing along with me.
Yeah.
La première.
La première va de
La
La première. La troisième vient la première. Entre pour son chant.
For those who haven't already translated it, it says, when three hens go to the field, the first one goes in front. The second one follows the first. The third comes last. When three hens go to the field, the first one goes in front.
Hey.
So there we are.
Très bon.
And that,
Merci beaucoup, monsieur.
Yes.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well
Yeah.
done.
Very good.
Ian, that's
Thanks, Ian.
that's a real first.
Good.
Yes, lovely.
Ian, be able to find language or to sing. I'm pretty certain that's never been.
John, we shall expect a follow-up. Norwegian language, of course.
Dave wanted to say something, I think.
Yeah, sorry. The Channel Tunnel is one of my things that I'm most interested in. And you mentioned seeing the tunnel boring machine, and you did point out that there are 3 tunnels. And because there were 3 tunnels, there were, I've forgotten the number, but I think there are at least half a dozen tunnel boring machines.
Yeah.
3 coming from France, 3 coming from England, amongst others.
Yeah.
And because the tunnel boring machines are bigger than the hole that is left, you can't turn around and come back out.
No.
So you either take it to pieces and bring it back through the tunnel, or you leave it where it is. And believe it or not, in the center joining point that you pointed out, I think there are at least 3 tunnel boring machines, and they're 100 yards long, that were diverted into the clay and cemented up. They're still there now, which is quite interesting, I think.
It is.
Audrey.
Hi, I just want to mention my mother-in-law would never go in a boat, never go on an aeroplane, wouldn't even really like crossing a bridge, but she was quite happy to go in the tunnel under the sea. And so in her 80s, we took her for the first time to see her brother's grave. He was killed in the D-Day landing, so she got her wish to see her brother's grave, thanks to the tunnel.
Very
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Interesting.
In Britain, near Caen. He was killed on the 6th of June, after the 6th of June landings. He was killed soon afterwards, driving ammunition up to the front. So we were very pleased to be able to take her, but we were amused that she was happy to go under the sea.